right, guys, welcome back to On Texas Football, and I should probably introduce myself. My name's Amanda Atwell. I'm your host today and for Tuesdays and Wednesdays moving forward. I am a lifetime Longhorn. I'm a Texas journalism grad. I have covered sports, I feel like, in every single corner of this state. I think the only one I'm missing is El Paso at this point. I've been in Amarillo, I've been in Harlingen, I've been at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, but now I'm here. You might also recognize me from the wonderful Moving Goalposts podcast with our favorite or least favorite Aggie, Billy Lucci. This might be, if you're a Longhorn, you might enjoy this show a little bit more. But anyways, I'm here with the pros. I'm here with CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe to host this show this evening. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
It's a happy Tuesday, and welcome to On Texas Football, Amanda. We're glad to have you. Sometimes we like to have fun here, Jeff. Other times we like to get off the rails. Matthew, thank you for all you do as well, and let's have some fun tonight. What do we say?
Hey, for Amanda's first show, can we just get a clip of CJ throwing his hat? Like, can we just do that to start us off on the right note? There we go.
There you go.
All right.
There it is.
Now we're
going. Duly welcomed now.
Well, good. Well, there's plenty to talk about, Amanda. I mean, yeah. Let me get your thoughts first. I mean, we got to welcome you to the show, but let me get your thoughts on what this Texas season might look like before we dive into Ohio State. Give me your broad Texas expectations for what's to come this fall.
I mean, I've talked about this pretty thoroughly over on Moving Goalposts, but my expectations are, I mean, for me personally, the floor would be 10-2. I'm expecting more of a 11-1. I'm expecting I think a slip up potentially on the road at Georgia or Ohio State, but maybe one of those other weird ones in the middle. Florida on the road is going to be a little sketchy. You never know with OU, however they look that game. You can have a really bad Texas team beat a really good OU team, or it can go the other way around. So I'm optimistic. I feel like this Texas team is on the right path. They've had a progression year in and year out. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm just ready for football. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I like that. I think, Jeff, what were you, 11-1? I was sitting at 11-1. I think I still got it somewhere on my notepad, but I feel good. I'm in the same boat as you. Those road games could get a little dicey. Of course, Georgia, I mean, that's the one that I'm looking at saying, Sark might just have a Kirby Smart problem. So we'll see. But altogether, this upcoming weekend should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super pumped personally. Unfortunately, I'll be watching it from home this weekend and just hoping that Fox YouTube deal works out. Otherwise, I'll be waltzing over to Happiest Hour. So we will see about that. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me on my inaugural show. If you've been here, you probably know how this goes a little bit better than I do. Pop any questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them. Super chats jump to the top of the line. And of course, a shout out to our sponsors. This Longhorn live stream is brought to you by Andy Ledecky at myperfectfranchise.net. So I think we should just get right into it. It's game week. And like you said, there's so many facets to this game. I feel like there's so many unknowns going into it, but we did get to hear from Ryan Day for the first time today. So let's roll one of those clips from that press conference.
First off, I think it's great for college football playing a game like this opening weekend. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Sark, for his coaching staff, for the players. And we're excited to play these guys. It's rare that you would, kind of play someone like this towards the end of the season and start the regular season with them. But here we are. And I think it's going to give us a great barometer coming out of the first game. But for us, as we've talked about before, the preparation starts really early because you got to be on point and we got to play a clean game. That's very, very important. And so, as you get closer and closer to the game, you just do everything you can to prepare the guys. I think when you look at our season, which is unique this year, one of your goals should be to win the opener. I mean, that's clear. We did that when we had Big Ten games to open the season, win the opener. And then you kind of go from there, which allows us an opportunity to focus on one game at a time. And then, once this game's over, we'll figure out what we did well, what we need to improve on. The issues will be there. They'll surface, and then we address them. So, it's an exciting time of year because now we get on the field and figure out where we're at, figure out where the guys are at, and go from there. But it's important that we play clean in game one.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot about that. Just the fact that the first game of the season was also the last game of the season for Texas is interesting in itself. And then just the fact that we're going to learn so much from this game, just based on the unknowns of this season.
And openers, I mean, they're sloppy to begin with anyway. Like, that's a game. I don't know. Rod's talked about it, and I still have like long-term PTSD from it. I still think back to the '99 opener when Texas opens up with NC State at home, gets 3 punts blocked, and ends up losing the game. As a matter of fact, Terrence Holt from NC State got drafted off of that game. Actually, Rod played with him in Detroit. But yeah, I mean, if things are going to go wrong in an opener, typically you're playing an opponent where your margin for error is pretty dang big. It's really, really small in this game, obviously. I went back and looked at it today, just looking at some of the numbers. CJ, I know you did too, just looking at some of the numbers from the Cotton Bowl last year. The penalties, actually, Ohio State almost doubled up Texas in penalties last year and penalty yards. For Texas, it was the turnovers. It was the turnover on downs on the first series. Really take out the Quinn Ewers interception because they were already down by 2 touchdowns, and obviously that goal-to-go possession that ended with the Jack Sawyer scoop and score. So on the road, protecting the ball is paramount. If I'm Sark, I'm drilling into Arch, hey, reserve the right to kick. Like, if you end every drive with a kick, you had a great day. So that's, I mean, hey, a throwaway and a punt, especially with Bomeister as your punter now, just let him flip the field. Let Ohio State and Julian Sand try to drive 75, 80, 85 yards to score. So I wouldn't be shocked if this game is really sloppy, really ugly early. But CJ, Texas is kind of wired right now to win that kind of game. Dare I say, thrive in that kind of game where you're playing field position and defense.
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, Ryan Day, could we be a little bit less obvious with the hair dye? I mean, I know the chat's going nuts, but I mean, my goodness. But to the point, no, Jeff, I'm with you. I think it's going to be pretty ugly. I think it's going to be a game in which field position and defense really wins the game. Who makes the first defensive play? Because other than that, Jeff, I mean, you're right. Every possession that ends with a kick, whether it's a PAT, a field goal attempt, or a punt, that's great because it doesn't give the other team, Ohio State in this instance, a short field to go put points on the board. And look, again, it's one of those things where it was interesting hearing from Ryan Day today. Which team limits distractions? We need to have less distractions than Texas. All we've heard this offseason is Arch Manning. And while he's done a great job of kind of tuning that out, the one thing for me is how does the rest of the team tune that out? Because, let's say Arch goes out there and the first 2 or 3 drives aren't pretty. Do guys start pressing? Defensively, do you start cheating gaps? Do you start cheating assignments to make a bigger play because your offense hasn't yet proven that they can move the ball? It's one of those things where, again, you don't yet know that you have Superman if Clark Kent's still in the newspaper room, right? You don't know until you're out there on the field. And right now, that's the expectation, is that Arch turns into Superman, but you haven't seen it yet. So that's the big question. My big thing is go out there, play your game, stick to the game plan, and make sure that if anything fails, I mean, reserve the right to kick.
Yeah, and from that presser, was there anything else specifically that stood out to you?
Ryan Day is really interesting because he doesn't say a lot, but he talks a lot. And, it's a good coach skill to go out there and feel like you're talking a whole lot and giving a lot of information away, but there's not a whole lot of substance. And again, credit to him. He's become a master at, I guess fielding questions when you don't really want to reveal a lot or you don't want to talk to the media. I'm assuming he's done that every last week of November after a Michigan loss. But for now, the big thing is this, he's talked about having a very young team this year for Ohio State. Ohio State a year ago, 14 draft picks, most of any team in the country, very veteran-led. That defensive line was very old. You had a fifth-year quarterback as well. Now looking into 2025, how do you maintain that level of composure, that maturity? It's really interesting as a guy who, again, I don't think is a great motivator. With new coordinators coming in, is that more of a benefit to him, Jeff, to have a younger group of guys who are, maybe a little bit more impressionable with this new coordinators coming in than what we've seen in years past? I don't know.
I compare the two coaches, and again, I was in the room with Sark. I wasn't in the room with Ryan Day, so I can only go off my observations. But like these big games just is so relaxed. Like you can tell he's confident. I don't know if he's confident that this team is going to go Ohio State on Saturday, but like he's confident in certain aspects of his team, and we can get to that here in a little bit. Like Ryan Day always seems like like he's waiting for something bad to happen. Like I've never seen a coach coming off of a national championship win, like just be as uncomfortable and just as tense as he is. Like I don't know. I don't watch enough Ohio State press conferences, and I don't watch enough Ryan Day during the season. Like every time I see him, he like he's in fear of his job. Like I don't know, it's really weird. And I know like that fan base is ridiculous, and their expectations are insane. And as crazy as it sounds, there's probably a decent chunk of that fan base that would rather beat Michigan than win a national championship. Like they're probably like, yeah, we won a national championship, but we didn't beat Michigan. Like, okay, like I understand he's dealing with an insane fan base, but at the same time, like, I don't know, Amanda, like I've never seen a guy that should be as comfortable as I'll get out coming off of a national championship. You're in the mix with Texas and Georgia for having the best roster in the country. And like, you just look like you've got one foot in the grave and the other's on a banana peel. Like I don't know. I feel uncomfortable when I watch Ryan Day.
Yeah, he definitely has some interesting vibes. It's interesting to look at just like the difference of those two coaches and just their demeanor in general and how they act in press conferences. Yeah. I feel like Sark has been pretty positive. Like it just kind of get a bit more positive of a vibe from him in the press conferences, a little more optimistic for the most part. But I think we have one more clip to play from that Ryan Day press conference as well.
The message is just win, find a way to win. I think when you start setting expectations, you can get yourself out of whack. We're going to take it one play at a time. He's got a good group of guys around him. He's got a good defense. He's got good special teams, a good offensive line, good skill guys. He needs to lean into those players and find a way to win the game. We'll try to get him into a rhythm and then go from there. And that's really it. It's a start. It's the first game, and we're excited for him. You're seeing him every day get more and more confident, more and more comfortable in what we're trying to do. But we got to get out in the field and play, and it's about time.
Boring.
He said excited, and I was like, I'm not getting much of the excited.
CJ, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, find a way to win. For a coach, normally you back that up with what you hope to do, right? I think for Ryan Day, a lot of what he relied on a year ago is gone, right? It's at Penn State. It's in the NFL. It's Chip Kelly no longer being on his sideline. Again, I don't think, and I'm not convinced Ryan Day is a top 5 coach in the country. I'm just not. I don't think, again, he's a great motivator. There were locker room issues a year ago going into the season. They obviously remedied that. But I think more than that, teams were just out-talented, and they were outsmarted by Jim Knowles, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the entire country, and Chip Kelly, who we've obviously seen put together some of college football's best offenses over the last decade plus. So what can he do this year? And Brian Hartline, God bless him, I think he's in for a long year. If Julian Sain's not that guy that they're expecting, how do you convince this Ohio State fan base, which y'all both mentioned is a pretty rabid one, it's a passionate one, that, hey, there's expected to be a long leash here? I don't know. Of course, Texas has to go out there and do their thing as well. But ultimately, listening to Ryan Day, it doesn't, one, strike me with a lot of confidence going into this game, but two, how do you convince this locker room that this is where, the energy and the passion is supposed to come from? I don't know.
Ohio State fans, if you ever wanted to know what Texas Tech fans would be like if they had like a blue blood football program to put their support behind, which they don't, that's Ohio State fans. Like they're just obnoxious. They don't know how to behave in public. Like they've earned their reputation. And I'm sorry, Buckeye fans, but your head coach was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. Like it's just, he was put into a perfect situation. And I said this last year after the Michigan game, CJ, and he ended up proving me wrong by leading that team to a national championship and getting it turned around. But there was a point where I was almost convinced, like, man, is Ryan Day just like a souped up version of Larry Coker? Like, your roster's so good, like you can only screw it up.
He's just for men's James Franklin.
Oh, dude, that's actually that's actually not a bad thing.
I know we're dogging Ryan Day a lot, but look, I think questions still remain, and I think Ohio State fans, after that Michigan game specifically, would sit there and say, yeah, I don't know if this is the guy that's suited, best fit to run one of the most premier programs in all of the country. I just don't think, and I still don't think that the entire fan base is convinced of that.
Yeah, I got to say, if Texas won a national championship but lost to either OU or A&M, there might be a bitter taste in a lot of fans' mouth still. But, it's a national championship at the end of the day. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
So, anyways, we'll move on to thanking one of our sponsors here. Are you looking to diversify or new ways to make money? Andy Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net can help you do just that by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. Call him or email him to learn more. He's got a really cool process that identifies the perfect fit for you. Email him now at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you so much, Andy. And with that, we're going to move on to more Ohio State, because what else is there to talk about this week? This game, it's going to be a game of mismatches because there's so many unknowns going into it. I'm curious as to where you think the mismatches in either of these teams could be, the ones that could benefit Texas, the ones that could damage Texas. Just what do you think are the biggest just mismatches coming into this?
Amanda, you mentioned one like in the rundown sheet, because it's the one, kicking is the one thing in this game that makes me nervous. Like it really does. Like CJ, last time I checked, like it sounded like there was still like a legit competition between Will Stone and Mason Shipley. I don't know if it's going to be a deal where like, hey, if it's, 45 and out, maybe Will Stone's on the field, and maybe 45 and in, it's Mason Shipley. But I don't know, if I'm Sark, I try to give myself manageable fourth down situations, especially between the 40s, because I don't know if I'm Sark. I don't know how you can feel comfortable settling for 3 points, and that's something he's got to get over, because we know like at the end of last year, like he did not trust Bert Auburn, and I don't blame him for not trusting Bert Auburn.
No.
That right hash was not kind to the Longhorns, CJ.
No, it wasn't. I think, again, you bring in Mason Shipley for a reason. That's going to be your guy. I think Texas would rather go for it on fourth down than have, their trust in a lengthy field goal otherwise. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, look, that first week playing in the Horseshoe, it's been known to be a place not friendly to kickers, especially opposing kickers who aren't used to the way the winds swirl in there. So kicking is interesting. I do think Texas is going to play Grayson Littleton as well, the freshman star, playing that nickel cornerback spot. If he's on the field, I know that's going to be a spot where you're going to hear guys in the Ohio State box say, "Ooh, who's this?" Alert, alert, alert. Brian Hartline, put somebody here and go deep. Test this kid and quite frankly, see if he's ready to play in this big game. How often does Texas trot him out there will also be something that we have to wait and see as well. Texas normally in early seasons hasn't trotted out their star freshman for more than about 20 to 25 snaps. Even Colin Simmons, only about 20 snaps a year ago against Michigan and Ann Arbor. Anthony Hill, only 22 snaps against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So I think that's something that, regardless of how much Texas trusts him, if he's on the field, that's going to be a mismatch that Ohio State, quite frankly, goes out there and tries to abuse, if you will. But, man, I got a question for you.
What's up?
Because we talk about mismatches. Your podcast with Billy Lucci, I mean, that has to just be the biggest mismatch of all time, no?
Ooh, yeah. I don't know if anybody's watched that recently. I think Billy's we're on episode 7, so he's 0-7 at this point. It just it came out today. Yeah, I think my favorite segment of that is our retweet or delete segment, because as we all know, I think he's tweeting a little more carefully these days, honestly. I mean, for the most part, he'll hide some in replies of tweets, and I'm like, you didn't think I'd find these, but saved for later.
I was kind of nervous that you'd come with receipts for Jeff and I. And
no, honestly, I mean, well, why would I come with receipts for allies?
Just as a, hey, welcome to the show. Guess what I've got? And
I can look if you want. I'll bring him.
No,
I'll bring him tomorrow.
I don't need, because I'll go 0 for 20. That would not be good for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm a person, I like to say I was pretty scarred in my college career because I went to UT during the entire Charlie Strong tenure. His daughter was in my sorority. It was not a great time. But yeah, so I got pretty scarred from that. So I wasn't really yapping much online for many, many years. So I kind of saved myself from my own bookmarks. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Billy's been a good sport about it for the most part. Today's episode, there were a couple retweet or deletes I read where he just fell silent. So, you know, that was a good one when he has nothing at all to say.
I'm sure I've got plenty. And Daniel, look, I mean, we're about to start the season. Vibes are supposed to be high. My Twitter's full of bad advice. I don't even know if that's true or not, but I'm sure that there are plenty of bookmarkable tweets back there that, make me want to log off here in a minute, Jeff.
I'm not saying anything about the game. I'm just letting Ohio State fans know I don't like your school. I don't like your program. I don't like your head coach. Really, other than the great Eddie George and the great Orlando Pace, I pretty much hate everything about you, who you are, and what you stand for. Just so you know what you're getting into when you watch this channel this week.
Fortunately, you and Dave Portnoy are in the same boat there.
I haven't been banned from the horseshoe, though, that I know of yet.
Yeah. Keyword. You never know.
We'll see after this weekend, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I thought that was pretty funny news this morning. I mean, I don't even know who's right at this point because they're saying the entire Barstool sports team was banned. And then, of course, they're pointing fingers at Ross Bjork, I believe, is pointing fingers at Barstool saying you're being dramatic about this. And this is Fox's decision. But was it Fox's decision to ban them from the campus? So I don't know who's right in that situation. But
dude, you can't, the face of your athletic program should be your AD and your head football coach, right? Can you have two bigger stiffs in the world than Ross Bjork and Ryan Day? Like, that just, to me, Ohio State fans, that just sums up who you are right there, who your head coach and your AD are.
I mean, I don't know. This isn't what Ohio State very clearly has the upper hand here, having just won the national championship, with Portnoy expected to sit on the same studio set as Urban Meyer. You know what the easiest thing they could have done was have him sit there and Urban Meyer, just anytime that he wants to talk, point to the championship sitting right next to him, and everything, all 105,000 included, would have been playing right into it. It's really interesting to me, but it's a soft move nonetheless.
And it's soft.
I mean, it's coming from the same school that wanted to ban flag planting at the legislative level. So,
SAWFT, soft. That's Ohio State in a nutshell.
I like it.
A nutshell, like their nut mascot.
Yeah, your mascot is a nut, literally a nut. So I don't know. I grew up when Texas was not very good when I was growing up. I had to have another team to root for, and I just gravitated to Michigan. So yeah, it's pretty much since football has entered my consciousness, I've never been in Ohio. My nephew went to Ohio State, and I told him, dude, I'm not beyond disowning you if you just want to just go all in and be on what that fan base is all about. But there are just like there are normal Aggies. We all know some of them, and believe it or not, there are normal Sooners out there. There are normal, well-adjusted Ohio State fans, despite what 97% of that fan base would have you believe.
I mean, I will say I went to the Cotton Bowl and I had one of the few nice Ohio State fans next to me, except he's probably about 14, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. He was very intrigued by the Rangerettes on the field, and I was telling him what they were. So, I mean, props to him. He was my experience with an Ohio State fan. But
the kid was probably in love. Seeing the Rangerettes out there?
Yeah, he was like, what is this? This is incredible. We don't have this in Ohio. I'm like, well,
hey, buddy, take a trip to Kilgore. It'll be just like Ohio.
Exactly. All right. Anyways, moving on.
Ohio State does have I didn't know they were that well known for their agriculture program. Oh. So do with that what you will.
Aggies.
Yeah.
It's the Aggies of Ohio.
They're like the Texas A&M of the Big
Except
Ten.
they
win stuff.
So.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Culture?
Huh. Would have never guessed.
I didn't know it either till I had a high school buddy that went to Ohio State, and he told me what his major, and I was like, I had no idea. So yeah, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, that is interesting.
All right. Anyways, let's move on to something that we hope is not soft: the Texas O-line. So there's a lot of question marks around this O-line probably for good reason. I'm curious as to whether or not you think these are overblown, or if there are legitimate concerns here. I know Sark said that it was one of his biggest concern points moving into this season.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a concern until we see them go out there and play. Mm-hmm. And very early, those concerns could be mitigated. Very early, those concerns could be magnified. One thing I can report today is Trevor Guzzi's back on the field. He was a full participant today. Of course, we've talked about it dating back to the second scrimmage a week and a half ago. His fingers is, I guess, what we're reporting here. It wasn't in great shape. In fact, he had been working with a bit of a club on his right hand. Now, again, that is his punching hand as he sets to his left. That is an important hand, and those are important fingers. More times than not, it's the closest to an incoming pass rusher. But he was a full participant. Again, how much of a splint, how much of a brace, how much wrap will we see on his hands come Saturday? I would imagine quite a bit. Now, again, I do think Trevor Goosby's going to be able to play in this game. How efficient will he be? How effective will he be? We're going to have to wait and see because, again, Ohio State, I know that they lost JTT, I know that they lost Jack Sawyer, but Bo Atkinson coming in from North Carolina with 8 sacks a year ago, he's nothing to scoff at. They've spun down CJ Hicks, much like Texas did with Brad Spence. Kind of be another one of those off-ball kind of hybrid linebackers that can get off the edge and play some pass rush. He's going to be tested. And quite frankly, had Trevor Goosby not been able to go in this game, my confidence in Texas's ability to move the football and Texas's ability to ultimately win that game would have been diminished almost fully. Again, I don't think Texas, with where they sit right now, following the loss of Andre Kojo on this offensive line, is in a very healthy spot depth-wise. Could that be the case come middle of the year when Nick Brooks gets his feet wet after some non-conference games, after, Connor Stroh sees some action for the first time in his career? Perhaps. But again, against Ohio State, if you don't have your star left tackle and you've already lost another, kind of flip-flop tackle as well, I would have been very pessimistic going into the horseshoe. So right now, things are trending back up in regards to Trevor Goosby, his ability to play, and ultimately what Texas offensively will be able to put on the field.
This is where the Kojo injury, you just alluded to it there, CJ. This is where the Kojo injury really hurts you because in a perfect world, you'd have just probably slid him to right tackle, slid Brandon Baker over to left tackle, and be like, all right, if Goosby can't go, this is our starting line. And that's 5 that you can definitely live with. And Amanda, you mentioned a little bit ago, where Sark is concerned, and he's right to be concerned. If you have another injury, what do you do? And we got a little bit of a glimpse of it when DJ Campbell missed a few practices at the beginning of camp. Hey, okay, do they make Nate Kibble the next guard? No, they slid Cole Hudson to right guard, and Connor Robertson was next up. So I guess and this is kind of based on what we've heard / what Sark has said. I guess you're going into this, CJ, with probably Jaden Chapman, Connor Stroh, and Connor Robertson. That's probably your next 3. You've got an interior guy, you've got a guy that can snap, and you've got a swing tackle. I guess that would be your top 3. Now, the difference is last year's line, your 3 primary backups were Cole Hudson, Trevor Goosby, and Brandon Baker. It's a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
And that to me is the difference with the offensive line. I think the starters, honestly, I'm not that concerned about the starting 5, especially if Goosby's out there. It's that next group, or if you have another injury, then what happens? And I'm with you, CJ. If that were to happen, I don't feel great about it. I do think this, though, and Rod Babers and I talked a little bit about this on an Arch Manning related video that's on the channel that we recorded and published earlier today. Does Sark trust Arch enough to really just unleash Arch and turn him loose like Sark was going to do, or was on his way to doing with Quinn in that first meeting with Alabama in 22, and like he did with Quinn in 23? And really, he did it with Quinn last year in Ann Arbor, which might have been the best game Quinn Ewers played in a Texas uniform. Does he unleash Arch? And by doing that, do we see more rolling protection, changing the launch point for the quarterback, doing things to get Arch on the move to where he's not just a stationary target? I don't know if Sark trusts. It's not necessarily trust with Arch, but does he trust the offense in this environment to function at that level where you can just unleash Arch and let him go?
That's interesting because we've seen Sark with 3 different starting quarterbacks, really 4, right? You throw Malik Murphy in there for a little bit. I'll say 3 because Hudson Card, Casey Thompson, Quinn, full-time guys for multiple weeks at a time. Those offenses has always been, we're going deep until we can't. Until you prove to me that we cannot do this, and that was a lot of what the last year and a half entailed for the Texas offense, it's going to be that vertical ability down the field. Now, he obviously had to ditch that in 2021 when Casey Thompson, God bless him, I mean, it didn't have any fingers. He didn't have any toes. He was banged up with both sprained ankles. I mean, everything going wrong for Casey that year did. And, the same for Hudson Card whenever he was on the field. They just, quite frankly, couldn't stay healthy because of that offensive line. But that deep attempts remained, right? And I think for Arch early, if that's the greatest strength of his game, you basically open the gate to the dog park. You take the leash off of your dog. You say, go crazy. I don't care where you go. Don't care where you throw the ball. Just go have fun. And that hasn't been the case for Quinn, right? You've had to walk him down the path on the right. He's had to sniff every plant. He's had to sniff every tree. All the other dogs are coming up to greet him, but he's not having fun, right? He's not running wild. I think you see Arch run a little wild this upcoming weekend. And I think it's because we saw enough of that a year ago where the deep ball connected and guys were getting open vertically down the field. That, to your point, Jeff, Sark can just say, hey, there's no restraints here. Go have fun. Go throw the ball around the yard. That's my best analogy of the day, by the way. Might be the only one we get.
I've had both kinds of dogs, too, in my life. Like, I've got one right now that I don't know if he's just young or has ADHD or what. But, yeah, he's just – you turn him loose, he's all over the place. He's everybody's best friend. But, yeah, that's what you're talking about, CJ. That, to me, is, like, it's the difference in, like, what gets both guys comfortable. And, like, as we came to find out with Quinn, it wasn't necessarily the deep ball. And I think Sark at some point figured that out. It's a lot of the RPO structure of Sark's offense. Get the ball out quick, get it in space, let guys run after the catch. I think with Arch, and Amanda, I don't know where you come out on this, but like we talked about it a lot pretty much since the end of the season, since Quinn moved on and Arch was going to be QB1. I just think it's going to be a lot more throws outside the numbers and vertical, like the back shoulder throws, those deep stop routes, the in-breaking routes. Like, I just think that's where Arch is going to be more comfortable. Like, it's more of what you would consider like an NFL route tree, but that's life with a guy who's got a legit big league arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Arch also, you'll just see a quarterback that's a little more mobile than a Quinn who has an oblique that's split in half or an ankle that's just not hardly functioning. But anyways, we'll move on to some of the chats here in a second. But Jeff, I think you got our next ad read for us.
Yes, thanks to our friends at Duck Camp for coming back on board with On Texas Football as a sponsor for this football season. Duck Camp gear is made for all the people that live for moments out there where there's fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. They like doing all that stuff. So they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there that look forward to opening day of hunting season and the kickoff of Longhorn football, all with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. And Duck Camp is here to let you know that from opening day to game day, they've got you covered. Here's a great season, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop duckcamp.com today. Again, duckcamp.com. And thanks to Duck Camp for sponsoring this On Texas Football live stream.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So we're going to move on to some of these chats. We can start out with some of these super chats. They'll take priority. Looking at Seth over here. I heard Day on McAfee show today, and he made it sound like he and Hartline are both involved in play calling. Is that coach speak or true? If Day is involved, does that equal out play calling?
Dude, the Tom Herman experience like soured me on what the heck was the word that he used to use? Not commutative or collective, collaborative play calling, CJ, like that cluster Auburn's going to try this year. I don't think it's going to be that bad with Ohio State, but yeah, I don't look Ryan. It's going to be really hard for Ryan. It's one thing for him to he's got veto power, right? It's one thing for him to do that with Chip Kelly, who's his mentor, who he trusts. Does he trust Brian Hartline that much? I don't know. I don't know if he does. Maybe he does, but I don't think it's a given.
No. And we talk about a quarterback playing against this Texas defense for the first start of his career going to be challenging. This is Brian Hartline's first ever game calling plays. And I know he's been at the right hand of Ryan Day for multiple years. He understands what Ryan Day wants to do schematically. He knows what he wants to do in a play calling perspective. But it's different when the bullets are flying and you're looking around saying, I have to answer on a third down, right? I need a big time conversion play here. And yes, I know that they've been working hand in hand with saying that offensive line, that offensive unit as a whole, to ensure that when they get in those situations, they have a short list of what they like to do. But until you're in that spot, it's different. It's different. Trust me. So I'm eager to see what this is like. Does Ryan Day have a short leash, as we talked about with Brian Hartline here? We just, quite frankly, don't know. But going back to that Auburn thing, because you made an interesting point there. What a cluster that is.
Dude, it's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you've got a first and second down play caller, a third down play caller, and then what is Freeze is doing a red zone, I think, or something?
You have a first and a second down play caller, and then Freeze has third down responsibilities, and he can also veto everything in the beginning. It's like, again, you only have 40 seconds. You only have 25 seconds to communicate this through the headset to your quarterback, who we've already talked about isn't the brightest of the bunch, right? Dude, I have no clue how that screams 6-6. And look, I don't like Auburn as a football program. I think it's one of the more, just obsolete programs in all the SEC. I could also argue if you take away 2 players from their entire program, they're just completely irrelevant to the world of college football. I know that's not true, but that's just how I view them. But here it is. Derek Nix and Ken Austin. Nix handles the first down strategy and play calling. Austin handles third down. And Hugh Freeze, head coach, has the authority to overrule everything we say or do. And he will also be highly involved. He's an outstanding play caller, and I've learned everything from him. You have 3 play callers. What the hell's the point of even having – what are we doing here?
My football IQ dropped several points reading that. Like, that is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. It kind of makes the Tom Herman collaborative play calling gimmick, like, it actually makes that look like it makes some sense. But yeah, dude, bottom line, CJ, like, I think this is going to end up being a deal more often than not, where like Brian Hartline is the offensive coordinator in name and probably puts together the game plan. But if there's a big decision in this game, nobody can tell me that Ryan Day doesn't have like something on that call sheet holstered and ready to go, like for a 3rd and short or 2-minute drill or whatever. And like, yeah, CJ, I'm with you. Like, Auburn is the most volatile program in the SEC. Like, every year, if you look throughout Auburn's history, they very seldom have they're not A&M. They're not just 8-4 in perpetuity. Like, they're either like 5-6 wins and the coach is about to get fired, or they're contending for the national championship. Very little in between with Auburn.
All right, we'll move on to our next one. I just got some flashbacks to the Herman area, so thank you for that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Moving on to Tyler. Is OTF thinking of making an app to access Texas news? And Hulu TV is giving a 3-day free trial. So if YouTube is down, get your free trial on Friday. Make sure you cancel it, though, so you don't get charged if you don't want to get charged. And can Texas run on OSU, or is their defense too good?
Well, sir, or go ahead, Jeff.
I've got some numbers actually for Texas. Did you know if you take out sacks, which last year in the Cotton Bowl, Ohio State had 4 sacks, which contributed to 27 lost yards. But if you adjust Texas rushing yards in a bowl game to take out sacks, 25 carries for 85 yards. That's not terrible. But I do think it's interesting, though, in the 3 losses last year were the 3 games where Texas failed to reach 30 official rushing attempts. And that is counting sacks as rushing attempts. Like, I knew it was a lot, but you guys realize, and Amanda, I think this like goes back to something you said about Quinn, Arch just being more mobile than Quinn and how much of a difference that can make. You guys realize in the 3 losses Texas had last year, they gave up 17 sacks. And you can't tell me all 17 of those were on the offensive line.
I agree.
Yeah, they were not.
So, yes, Texas can run. I think a lot of that's going to hinge on, 1, Goosby's availability and what he can do. And 2, CJ, we talked about this a little bit too. Like, is CJ Baxter going to be on a pitch count? Yeah. And if he is, when do you decide to kind of save his carries? If not, then yeah, just turn C4 loose.
Yeah, I don't like predictability in my offense. I think Texas a year ago got predictable anytime that you had a different personnel grouping on the field at its running back spot. Right, Jaden Blue, we knew wasn't going to be a guy that you leave in to pass protect, right? We knew often that his running was going outside one way or the other. Jarrett Gibson, almost the complete opposite. If he was in, he was going to chip, or he's going to run downhill right through the tackles. But for this first showing with CJ Baxter, I kind of want just predictability. You know, if you're going to restrict him, do what he does very well, and that's pick up dirty yards. So, again, I don't like predictability, but I understand this is a season in which Texas is likely going to play 15 games at the minimum. And if that's the case, you don't want to burn out a guy who's worked all this time to get back on the field right away just to get 25 carries, and now you don't have him for the next month or two. I would try to be, very selective with how I use CJ Baxter, unless he just comes out looking like a world beater. In that case, hey, leash off, run free, to continue my analogy, because I'm on that one. But I do think, again, you have enough versatility, especially with the emergence of a Christian Clark. And again, for Jarrett Gibson, it provides you that ability to go into 20 personnel and not necessarily relinquish what type of strengths you had in other packages, personnel-wise.
Yeah, that's I want to know the balance between two-back stuff and two tight end stuff, because I always think about this when you're talking about, okay, how diverse are you going to be with your personnel packages? To me, it's like, okay, what makes more sense? What makes your offense more versatile, more explosive, it's more conducive to moving the football and putting points on the board? And it's no disrespect to Spencer Shannon, but if you're asking me, hey, who would you rather have out there for more snaps, Spencer Shannon or one of CJ Baxter or Trey Wisner, that's not up for debate for me. So I want to see how many two-back looks they use. But that's interesting, CJ. Predictability from this standpoint is where I agree with you that it's not bad. We talk about the interior D-line losses Texas had. Like, we forget, like, Tyleik Williams was a first-round pick. And Jack Sawyer and JTT, like, that was a really good run defense Ohio State had last year. You talk about, hey, it was Ohio State going to line up and test the Texas defense. Why can't Texas line up and try to test the Ohio State defense? Because going back to our conversation about the offensive line, if there's one thing I trust this offensive line to do as it's going to be constructed in Columbus, it's to just put a hand in the dirt, fire off, and try to knock people backwards and be a downhill running team. I don't know about the other stuff, but that's one of the things that for an inexperienced offensive line is probably one of the easier things to ask them to do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to move on to our next sponsor before we get to more of your Super Chat questions. Thanks to our friends at Saunders Allstate. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders, serving the Austin and Round Rock area and all of Texas, is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin Round Rock area and all of Texas, give him a call at 512-218-8571. Thank you so much, Mark Saunders. And we're going to move on to our next Super Chat question. Daniel Earp, what has Akina brought to the locker room, and how does he change the dynamics from our last game to Saturday?
How does he change this defense? That's a good question. I kind of hope he doesn't, because I thought Texas had a great defense a year ago. And the one thing I would say is, look, if you want to talk about the fundamentals, if you want to talk about techniques, sure, that's great. But I think Akina, more than anything, brings a swagger, and, there's a reason why they call it the money wall inside Moncrief when they're, the defensive backs are sitting inside watching film. That whole wall of the murals of just guys that were Thorpe Award winners, first-round picks, All-Americans, whatever it is, they made DBU what it is today. And, we've talked to, whether it be a Derek Williams, a Jelani McDonald, Malik Muhammad, all these guys, and, of course, Michael Taft, all of them have said, one of the big things that got them excited about playing for Coach Akina is knowing that those guys on the wall are there because of Coach Akina, right? That was one of the big reasons why Texas is revered as one of the best producing defensive back schools in all the country. So I hope that Texas plays with swagger. I thought that they had it a year ago, especially late in the year when Andrew Makuba really started to get into his own role. He became a headhunter. And when he'd get up, he'd let you know about it. Jahdae Barron, we obviously know that was a guy who, I don't like throwing around the word swaggy, but I mean, he was a swaggy guy, right? He played with that swagger and that confidence. So I think more than anything, it's going to be that confidence. You're the best defensive back on the field. You need to go make plays in that regard. I don't think it's going to be too much of an X's and O's change. Again, I think Pete Kwiatkowski has done a tremendous job in his career of making a name for himself and coming out early. That really more than anything, Pete Kwiatkowski has amazed me at what his early game, strategies look like in the first quarters of games, first halves of games. So more than anything, it's about that individual mindset that Akina brings, Jeff. I don't know if you have anything different there, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy than what we saw from a year ago.
You mentioned PK, like how good he is, like how good his game plans are. Like I think back to the 2021 OU game, man, his plan was so good. It got Spencer Rattler benched, and it just so happened that OU ended up playing the better quarterback because of it. But I digress. Look, Dwayne Akina coming back to Texas, I've been thinking about this. Like it really reminds me of the year Gary Patterson spent in Texas, at Texas as Sark special assistant. Because I talked to a couple of people close to GP, and before that deal was official, the talk was, man, he is really fascinated. He sees a unique opportunity that excites him to help Texas get ready to go into the SEC. And kind of in that same vein, I think for Dwayne Akina, Sark has talked about, like, we've all heard it, right? How often since he took the job has he said, I want to be sticky in man coverage. I want to play good man coverage, play tight man coverage. Well, now that he's got the personnel to do it, I think that's part of Dwayne Akina's plan is he sees an opportunity to bring that vision Sark has, to kind of bring it to life, and to do it with guys like Cade Phillips, Grayson Littleton, like go down the list of guys in the DB room. He's got a chance to do it with guys that have legit futures in the NFL. And the other thing I'll say too, before we move on with Dwayne Akina, I go back to Dwayne Akina and Will Muschamp when they worked together. I've never seen the Texas defense where the front end and the back end were tied together like they were with Dwayne Akina and Will Muschamp. If he can help kind of bridge that gap between Johnny Nansen, PK, and what he's doing on the back end, especially CJ, I'm a Mark Orfe fan after sitting in on his lecture in coaching school and just what he's done on the trail. Like, I think that could be – that's kind of that little fun, those final tweaks maybe you need to get over the hump.
That's going to be interesting too, is how much of Orfe do you feel in this game, right? Because – Jeff, what was the big takeaway that you just teased about coaching school? Is like, you play physical if you're going to play cornerback here. You're going to have to come off, get off of blocks. You're going to have to come up and make tackles by the line of scrimmage. Ohio State, we've talked about Jeremiah Smith, but they're going to try out Quincy Porter and Brandon Ennis as well. Two big bodies, relatively speaking, to what we see elsewhere in the SEC. Quincy Porter about 6'4". We know Jeremiah Smith 6'3", and Megatron 2.0 essentially. But aside from that, look, I mean, Brandon Ennis at 6 foot, 205, 210 pounds is a very sturdy wide receiver, kind of in that DeAndre Moore mold, if you will. So physicality on the outside is going to have to maintain. And I think with both Orfe and Akina, with really what they've emphasized throughout the last 8 months or so, that's going to be a focal point of this Texas defense, is those guys in the back end playing very physically.
Dude, and you're going to have to mix coverages in this game. Like you are, not just to deal with Jeremiah Smith, but also like you want to make it as difficult as possible for Julian Sand to get a beat on what you're doing. But for the love of everything holy, please limit the number of times just one guy is going to be responsible for covering Jeremiah Smith, because the one too many times you do it, that could be the difference in this game. Yeah. Like I feel like, look, CJ, you play more of the stuff for entertainment purposes only than I do. If I feel good about a bet in this game, Jeremiah Smith's going over 1 catch and he's going over 3 yards in this game. Like, he will not have the same kind of night he had in the Cotton Bowl.
Yes, I agree.
I think that's an easy bet. And speaking of Jeremiah Smith, we got a question from AJ. Can Mookie lock down Jay Smith? Thoughts, CJ?
Oh,
I don't want him to try. How about that? There's no disrespect to Michael Taft. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Like, just bracket that dude and don't try to let anybody be the hero.
Yeah, I like Michael Taft a lot. Anybody in the country, can they lock down Jeremiah Smith? My answer is probably not. So no, I would say you don't want this to be the matchup that you see continuously. And again, Texas has done a tremendous job going back to that Cotton Bowl game of whether you want to call it bracketing, whether you want to call it disguising, a late stem to a different coverage on the back end with showing two high safeties and playing Tampa 2 with a cornerback running all the way deep. There's all sorts of different formations and schemes that Texas showcased a year ago that which Jeff and Amanda look for a young quarterback to diagnose what's going on in the back end. It's going to be even more difficult than probably what's happening in the forefront with that pass rush. So that's really where I think Texas can, kind of throw a curveball of their own to Julian, saying, hey, maybe we just sit back, we blitz 4, and you got to pick apart what we're doing in the back end with our 3 versatile safeties, our 3 cornerbacks, including the nickel, and Ty Anthony Smith, Anthony Hill, and these guys up in the middle. They can roam around as well. So ultimately, my answer is short and simple here. I don't want Michael Taft just guarding Jeremiah Smith. And if he is, he better have a corner underneath and part of a bracket so that whenever Julian Sain looks for his way, he says, I'm not even going to fit this one in there. I'm not even going to try. That's my answer.
Of all the corners in the country, Leonard Moore at Notre Dame is the only guy I would halfway trust with Jeremiah Smith in man coverage. And even then, I want it very, 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 very limited. Yeah. Like, hey, similar to in the bowl game, and granted it's different because Emeka Egbuka was a first rounder, but if they beat you nickel and diming it down the field with Emeka Egbuka and G. Smith or G. Scott and Carnell Tate, then great. Have at it. Jeremiah Smith's not going to beat me. That was Texas's plan last time. That should be the plan on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. Next question. Denver. The hype around Texas and Arch Manning reminds me of the hype of 2019 Joe Burrow and LSU. I wasn't a believer then, but they made me a believer. I think this kind of pulls into there is a slight higher experience level for Arch Manning over Sayin. So it's a slight advantage there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Amanda, did you think in that 2019 game when LSU came to Austin, did you think Keontae Ingram had the touchdown until we all realized, oh no, he dropped the ball? Because I did. I was like, oh yeah, he caught it. And then I was writing something down, didn't even realize he dropped it.
Yeah, in 2019, it was pretty shortly after I moved away from Shreveport, Louisiana. And one of my best friends is a massive LSU fan. So that was a fun time for me. We were actually planning on going to the game in 2020, but then of course 2020 happened. But yeah, sad memories there. Sad memories there.
Yeah, and unlike Ohio State fans, LSU fans, I like you guys because you guys know how to party. You guys are hospitable. You're good sports.
I'm in the same boat.
New Orleans is my favorite food city in America. So yeah, LSU fans, you're good.
And also Aggies hate LSU fans. So there's another plus.
Man, Amanda, you need to bring this up with Billy. Seriously,
anytime I bring up LSU, I can tell in his eyes there's some fire behind them.
In 13 years or whatever that Texas and A&M were apart. I don't know what A&M when Texas went into the SEC, when I was just seeing stuff on Twitter, just seeing fan reactions back and forth. I don't know if it was just making the cups after that 6 overtime game or what, but dude, LSU hates Texas A&M. There's not oh, we kind of respect you. No, dude, if College Station was burning down, I don't think everybody in Baton Rouge would go number 1 on it to put the fire out. There's some deep-seated hatred that the Bayou Bengals have for the Aggies. And I dig it. I love it. I just don't know what started it.
Yeah, I've got no clue. It's probably a little bit of A&M.
I'll ask Billy on the next show. We'll see.
It's got to be A&M making rings and hats and posters and hanging billboards for a 7 overtime regular season win, but I would imagine that's a little bit of it. And yes, Salty Q, Goobs is a great nickname as well. But no, it's good for LSU because look, I know that Tennessee, Ole Miss kind of in there, Georgia, Alabama, but we need more rivalries. Give us more for LSU.
If I can go back to Denver's question real quick, you got to remember going into that year, LSU wasn't as hyped going into that year as Texas is going into this year. Because even when LSU came to Austin, I know I got off on a tangent and somebody brought up 3rd and 17, and that triggered my PSG a little bit. Going into that game, like I didn't, maybe some hardcore LSU people did. I didn't know Joe Burrow was going to be what Joe Burrow ended up being. Like, I didn't, we knew Jamar Chase was really good and had Terrace Marshall. Like, I didn't know Justin Jefferson was going to be what he was. I didn't know that offense was going to be maybe the greatest college offense for one season that I've ever seen. And I've seen some good ones.
Undisputed.
So it took some time. It was probably, I don't know if you guys have any strong recollections of LSU that year, but like them coming into Austin and beating Texas the way they did, like with Burrow dicing them up on 3rd and 17, like that was kind of like, all right, maybe we'll pay attention. But I don't think probably wasn't until they beat Alabama that you're like, okay, LSU's legit. Like they can really win a national title. So yeah, the initial hype wasn't, I don't remember it being then for LSU what it is for Texas now.
No, I agree. It was more as the season progressed and the numbers that they were putting up is when you're like, oh, this could be something historic coming into the year. UCF was really the team before, that really created the monster that was LSU. The cheap hit on the Joe Burrow pick 6 in that bowl game in 2018. And then Joe wakes up and he's like, oh, I'm just going to beat the hell out of him. And sure enough, they awoke a demon in him.
I think a lot of the hype also has to do with the fact that his last name is Manning. So a little bit different compared to Burrow there. But before we get to our next ad read, I'll just answer this question from Zane really quickly because the news of the day was actually that Xavier Worthy's #1 fan got engaged to his teammate, Travis Kelce.
How about that?
So congrats, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I'm sure all the men watching love to hear this news for the 15,000th time today. But what wedding do I expect Taylor Swift to have? Do I have any advice for her? Well, I'm not married, so I probably shouldn't give her any advice. But wedding-wise, I think she'll do something a little more low-key. I don't think she'll do a big, massive wedding, maybe nice little garden party style wedding, but I'm sure that is all the capacity that anybody has to hear for Taylor Swift. So I will...
1989 themed?
1989. I would love 1989 is my #1 album. So
that was a hell of a pull.
It was. I'm a big 1989 girl, but the new one is also coming out, and apparently Texas has a pretty good record when it comes to games coordinate with album release dates for Taylor Swift. If you did not know, that was left in my comments today. So
I'd like to see the math on that.
Yeah, maybe a good thing. I think Texas plays Florida the day after the album release, so that could be a good one to have some good luck for.
For sure.
All right. We'll move back into our last sponsor. Stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks of PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general? Call Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. He will take you through a process to identify a business that will fit not only your financial goals, but also your skill set. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you so much, Andy. And of course, one of the big things of the day is Lee Corso. It's his last college game day. Sad day. He's picked Texas to win 12 times, donning the Bevo headgear per Sports Illustrated. He's 7 for 12 in those picks. Who does Corso pick Saturday morning? And welcome to me. Thank you so much, the Juju Man.
Brutus was the first headgear he put on. So
I was thinking that too. He also loves Brutus. That's the thing.
Yeah, Brutus will be the last headgear he puts on.
You think?
It'll be the wrong headgear, but it'll be the last one he puts on.
Yeah, he's got to make the crowd go out with a bang. Can't pick the away team and expect the warm send off. So I'm kind of with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think Coach Corso is playing the heel role at this point in his career. Like if it was McAfee, McAfee would like give him the swerve at the end. I don't think Corso's doing that.
Yeah. And on that note, what is our favorite Lee Corso moment?
Shut up, midget. Very easily my favorite. He had like a Make-A-Wish kid up there and just it was unbelievable.
As a P1 of the ticket in Dallas, the Lee Corso baby arm signs for as long as they were around that's pretty awesome. But as far as the Corso moment, the live F-bomb, I think that was a Houston SMU game.
Yes, that was going to be mine. That one.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
That one was hilarious. All right. Moving on, MJF, way too early, I know, but I assume everyone would trade a natty for just 1 year of Arch starting, but would you trade a competitive national championship game loss for the same?
Okay.
Let me dissect this. Hold on.
I know, I'm trying to analyze. Would you
My
trade
Florence high school education is not allowing my brain to work that fast.
Would you trade? No.
No.
No?
No. I think no is the answer.
Okay. I'm still trying to understand what the question was.
No.
Okay.
2 years of Arch
2 years of Arch, yes.
and no national championship is better than 1 year of Arch and still no national championship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the math I've come down to.
okay.
What kind of
pretty obvious to
level of
me.
acceptance is that? Like you don't put a number on the wall for like 2025. We kind of almost got there and it was close in the fourth quarter, but we couldn't quite get it done. Like, dude, let the Aggies put numbers on the wall that have an asterisk next to them. Like you don't do that stuff at DKR. No,
We don't do moral victories around here.
I want it all or nothing at all. That's me with the national championship.
All right, moving on. Besides LSU Clemson, what other game are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm sticking in the state. Auburn Baylor. I think Baylor.
The Baylor Auburn game.
20. I mean, quite frankly, I think that game isn't close. I think Baylor has a better quarterback. I think Baylor has the better defense. I think Baylor has the better coach. Auburn, again,
dude,
not a program I'm a fan of.
Not only does Baylor have the better coach, Baylor, like, if you're asking me, like, hey, who would you if you had to go off the fighting war and had to leave your family with somebody, who would you do? It's Dave Aranda over Hugh Freeze 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. Like, Dave Aranda is like a genuine, like, nice dude. Dude, I wouldn't trust anything Hugh Freeze said if he got his tongue notarized. Like, that's not, I'm just not down with that. Other than LSU Clemson, Texas State, Eastern Michigan, Saturday night. I'll be tuning in. And then, dude, I want to see what North Carolina looks like against TCU on Monday with Belichick. I just want to see what it looks like.
All right, moving on. Third and Orlando is more like it.
Oh, Colton, come on. We're having fun tonight, I thought. We're having a good time. And then, yeah, I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, if you're – God, now y'all got me down this road. Look, if your blitz call ends up with like Caden Stearns with a bad hamstring, one-on-one with Justin Jefferson, dude, that call sucks and should be fired into the sun and never make it on a call sheet ever again.
I agree.
It's fair take there. Also, Saban won multiple titles with bad kickers. So
yeah, God used to nerf Alabama back in the day, like the early from 2010 to 2015, he used to nerf them. And what, for folks who aren't familiar with the term nerf, it just means that you couldn't reach your maximum potential for whatever reason. And Alabama's nerfing was always just never having a kicker that could make any type of kick. And it was kind of amazing. Any big game that relied on a late kick, I mean, doink, doink, doink. They were just never making anything. It was amazing. Hopefully, Texas has a good kicker this year. Hopefully. Texas wins games in which they don't need a kicker this year.
I saw somebody, I think it was Steven, was talking about this weekend's games, said Bama FSU is intriguing. Producer Matthews said he pines for DJU to be taking the snaps for Florida State and isn't quite sure how the Seminoles are going to do without DJU behind center. But, yeah, I do want to see. I'm sure Florida State will have a pulse, unlike they were most of the year last year. Here's the thing about Nick Saban, though. If you really think about this, like you look at like all the games and national championships that he won, think about all the ones where he got really close and something happened. Like the ones he should have won. Like you can make the argument like Nick Saban should be easily double digits in terms of national championships. But he did win multiple titles with bad kickers. But go look at the rest of the roster compared to what the rest of the country was working with.
Yeah, that sure does help. All right. Keontae Ingram. There's our other.
Again, why y'all gotta be? See, I shouldn't have mentioned anything about 2019. Denver's question. I appreciate the super chat earlier. We love the super chats, love the participation. But we got on 2019 LSU, and y'all are just shoveling dirt on Tom Herman's coaching grave. So just keep it up.
R.I.P. All right. And thank you so much, Miracle. Yes. Thanks for all I did in the RGV. That was one of my stops when I said every corner of Texas. I was in Harlingen, Texas for 2 years, Amarillo, Texas for 2.5 years. can call Shreveport, East Texas, live in Dallas now, and went to school in Austin. I think I'm just missing Houston there. So,
Man, no loss.
yeah.
Sorry to anybody.
I mean, I've been there a few times.
That's
That's all I
CJ,
need.
not me. I have nothing against Houston. That's the whole CJ. You get into that Houston Dallas stuff, which is just I don't get that either. But to each their own.
I did have to cover the Astros for a period, which was very interesting for me. So I have been to Houston and experienced it all I need. So there's that. But I think that's all our super chats. And I think we're just about out of time. This has been a lot of fun. First show underway.
I mean, what do you think? Matthew behind the scenes was pulling the strings. The chat was lively. Jeff and I were ripping jokes. Amanda, I thought you were fantastic.
Thank you.
So credit to you. Hat tip. Not hat
Amanda, that's
throw.
a great first show. A great first show.
I appreciate it. It was a good show because I got to bring up Taylor Swift in some capacity. I promise that won't be every show and probably won't be again unless we see her on the sideline of a football game.
Yeah, we're gonna get a little
Longhorn
tally.
game.
Days without Taylor Swift, man. Reference, and we're gonna see how long that tally can go.
Okay,
Amanda,
maybe-
it's cool. I've got a 7-year-old daughter at home, so her bedroom's like right next to the office. So if I'm in here working every now and then, that I'll get a whiff of that coming down the hall. So that's all
good blast of the Tortured Poets department.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't even know what that is.
It's her most. Okay, we'll do this education later. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. You're watching On Texas Football. Make sure you tune in to Coffee and Football bright and early tomorrow. For CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe, I'm Amanda Atwell, and hook 'em horns, guys. Thanks for watching. Ooh.